Wranglers are built to take abuse, but most of them never make it past 100,000 miles because of simple mistakes owners don't even realize they're making. And the worst part? Some of these destroy your engine, transmission, or transfer case silently while the Jeep still feels completely normal. So today, I'm showing you 12 Wrangler mistakes that can cost you thousands if you ignore them long enough. Let's start at number 12, trusting the oil life monitor on the Pentastar. The 3.6-liter Pentastar V6 lives in roughly 80% of Wranglers on the road, and it's got one ugly weakness nobody talks about. It runs hot. With the top off, no aerodynamic help, and stop-and-go traffic in summer, that engine cooks its own oil from the inside. The factory oil life monitor uses an algorithm based on driving conditions, and it'll happily stretch your interval to 8 or even 10,000 miles. A sealed sedan in a climate-controlled garage might survive that. A Wrangler doing trail runs and school drop-offs in July heat absolutely won't. When that oil breaks down, it stops protecting the variable valve timing solenoids and the cam bearings. The solenoids gum shut, the cam lobes wear flat, the engine starts misfiring, almost always on cylinders 2 and 5 first because they sit furthest from the oil pump. Here's the part most mechanics won't tell you. The current JL holds only 5 quarts of oil, a 17% reduction from older Pentastar applications running the same displacement. Less oil means faster additive depletion and a much smaller margin for error. The fix is boring and cheap. 5,000 miles, full synthetic, 0W20 meeting MS6395 spec. A $60 oil change beats a $2,800 teardown. But that mistake at least gives you a check engine warning. The next one destroys your engine silently while everything still feels normal. Now let's get into number 11, mixing coolant types. Most Wrangler owners treat coolant like colored water, and that single assumption causes some of the nastiest internal damage ever pulled out of a Jeep. JL Wranglers from 2013 forward run OAT coolant, that purple Mopar fluid, part number 68163849AB, designed specifically for aluminum cooling passages. What happens almost weekly is somebody tops off at a gas station with universal green because the cap fits and the price is half. Green and OAT don't just dilute each other, they chemically react. The mixture forms a thick gel that coats every passage in the cooling system. Heater core tubes plug. The water pump impeller gets coated. Flow through the radiator drops by half. There's no warning light, no temperature spike at first. Just slow internal rot you can't see until it's too late. A 2018 JL Sahara came in with a heater that wouldn't blow warm on the passenger side. When the system got flushed, what poured out turned to chunky brown paste. Total bill? $1,900. Mopar OAT only. Full flush every 5 years or 100,000 miles. And use distilled water, never tap, because the minerals react with the corrosion inhibitors and accelerate the same gel reaction. An $80 service prevents a $2,000 repair. But this next mistake is something almost every Wrangler owner does without realizing the cost. That brings us to number 10, running the fuel tank below a quarter. This one shocks people because everyone assumes a low fuel tank is just an inconvenience. It isn't. Your fuel pump sits submerged inside the tank, and the gasoline around it acts as both coolant and lubricant for the pump motor. When you drop below a quarter tank, the pump runs hotter, and it starts pulling from the very bottom where years of sediment have settled like sludge at the bottom of a coffee pot. That sediment runs straight through the fuel filter and into the injectors. The pump motor burns hotter every time, and each cycle shaves a little more life off the bearings. Fuel pump replacement on a JL runs $650 to $950 in parts alone, plus 2 to 3 hours of labor to drop the tank. Most shops swap out at least 2 pumps a month, and every owner answers the same way when asked how often they ran near empty. Always. Keep it above a quarter. The $10 you save squeezing the last few miles isn't worth a $1,000 pump and a tank you'll be paying somebody to drop. But this next one is the lie the dealership told you the day you drove off the lot. Now we're at number 9, the lifetime transmission fluid myth. Lifetime transmission fluid is the dirtiest phrase in the entire automotive industry, and Jeep is one of the worst offenders. The 8-speed automatic in JL Wranglers, the 850RE built by FCA, or the ZF 8HP50 on certain trims, gets serious heat during towing, trail crawling, and aggressive highway driving. Every hard shift creates microscopic metal shavings from the clutch packs, and those shavings circulate through the valve body and solenoids like sand in a watch. After 60 to 80,000 miles, the fluid loses its hydraulic grip. Clutches slip. The transmission begins hunting for gears on every upshift. A 2019 Rubicon at 115,000 miles came in with fluid that ran jet black and a filter almost completely clogged. Full rebuild estimate, $4,600. The owner had never touched it because nobody told him to. ZF themselves recommend changing this fluid every 50 to 80,000 miles, regardless of what Mopar marketing wants to claim. Use ZF Lifeguard 8 or Mopar 68218925AA. This part is critical because using ATF plus 4 will destroy this transmission. ATF plus 4 is for the older 5-speed and the transfer case, not the 8-speed. $250 now saves you $4,600 later. And the next mistake is one most Wrangler owners don't even know exists until something starts ticking. Up next is number 8, ignoring spark plugs past 90,000 miles. The 3.6-liter Pentastar calls for spark plug replacement at 100,000 miles per the factory schedule, and most owners treat that number like a personal challenge. By 100,000 miles, the electrode gap has widened so far that the ignition coils are working overtime to bridge it. That extra electrical strain kills coil packs early. A single misfiring cylinder dumps unburnt fuel straight into the catalytic converter, and that fuel keeps burning inside the cat until it melts the substrate from the inside out. A catalytic converter replacement on a JL runs $1,200 to $1,800. A 2016 JK Unlimited rolled in at 128,000 miles, check engine light flashing, running on 5 cylinders. 3 coil packs were burnt out. 1 catalyst was toast. His total came to $2,400 for something a $120 spark plug job would have prevented. Here's the hidden detail nobody mentions. The Pentastar uses an aluminum head, and aluminum loves to seize threads with steel spark plugs over time. Swap them at 90,000 miles, use the Mopar SP-LZFR5C-11 or NGK equivalent gapped to spec, and coat the threads with a tiny dab of anti-seize. But this next one catches everyone off guard because there's no warning and no dash light at all. Moving on to number 7, treating differentials like they're sealed for life. Your Wrangler has 2 differentials, and most owners forget they exist. The front and rear diffs on a JL combined hold less than 2 quarts of fluid, and that small volume heats up fast on a trail or under tow. There's no warning light. The fluid just breaks down quietly, and gear teeth start running metal on metal until the damage is irreversible. By the time you hear a whine on highway speed or a clunk on tight turns, the carrier is already wrecked. A rear differential rebuild on a Dana 35 or M220 runs $2,500 to $3,800. A Sport S that had never had its rear diff serviced at 96,000 miles got torn down, and the ring gear teeth looked like somebody had attacked them with a metal file. Total damage, $3,200. Change diff fluid every 40,000 miles for street driving, every 20,000 if you wheel regularly. Use 75W85 GL5 synthetic, and add friction modifier if your rear has the track lock limited slip. The whole service runs about $120. But this next part is the one drowning Jeeps in creeks and rivers across the country right now. Quick side note, if you want all of this information and a whole lot more in one place, check out my ebook, The 500,000-Mile Jeep Blueprint. I put together the maintenance habits, preventative fixes, and Wrangler owner tricks that can help your Jeep last significantly longer and save you thousands over time. The link is down in the description below if you want it. Now we hit number 6, completely forgetting the transfer case fluid. Your transfer case is what makes your Wrangler a real 4-wheel drive vehicle, and almost nobody services it. Per the JL manual, transfer case fluid should be checked every 30,000 miles and changed every 60. If you cross water, mud, or deep sand regularly, cut that to 30,000 or after every serious water crossing. The case holds about 2¼ quarts of ATF plus 4, and when that fluid breaks down or gets contaminated with water, the internal chain, sprockets, and bearings start eating themselves alive. A transfer case rebuild runs $2,000 to $3,500, and a full replacement can hit $4,000 with labor. A 2017 JK Rubicon that had been through dozens of creek crossings without a single fluid swap drained out milky gray. Milky gray means water mixed with the ATF and turned it into corrosive slurry. Chain stretched, bearings pitted. Total damage, $3,100. 2 quarts of ATF plus 4 cost about $25. Spend the half hour and save thousands. But this next mistake is the Saturday project that ruins more Wranglers than any other single thing in the aftermarket world. Let's roll into number 5, installing a cheap lift kit without fixing the geometry. Every new Wrangler owner wants more height, and the aftermarket makes it ridiculously easy to bolt on a 2.5 or 3.5 inch lift over a single weekend. What those budget kits don't include is the geometry correction your Wrangler absolutely needs once you change the suspension. Factory caster on a JL sits around 4.2 degrees positive, and lifting the vehicle drops that number toward 3 or even below. Lower caster means harder steering return, more rolling resistance, and a front suspension that wants to oscillate instead of track straight. Without adjustable control arms, a new track bar to recenter the axle, and a professional alignment, you're setting yourself up for accelerated tire wear at $1,200 a set, steering wander, and the early stages of death wobble. Budget lift kits with no geometry correction are the single biggest cause of premature suspension failures rolling through any Jeep shop in America. A proper lift install with adjustable control arms, a new track bar, and a real alignment adds about $600 to $800 on top of the kit price. That money saves you thousands. Speaking of death wobble, the next mistake is the worst Band-Aid fix in the entire Jeep universe. That brings us to number 4. Fixing death wobble with just a new steering stabilizer. Death wobble is the single most terrifying thing a Wrangler owner can experience. The entire front end shakes so violently that the steering wheel feels like it's about to rip clean out of your hands. This isn't some rare edge case either. Stellantis settled a class action lawsuit in June of 2023, finalized by U.S. District Judge Mark Goldsmith, covering roughly 1.1 million owners and lessees of 2018 to 2020 JL Wranglers and 2020 Gladiators. Total settlement value was around $30 million, and it included an 8-year, 90,000-mile extended warranty on the steering damper. The case was originally filed by a New Jersey owner named Claire Reynolds back in June of 2019. The wobble usually starts above 50 miles per hour after you hit a bump. What happens constantly is owners or budget shops slap a new steering stabilizer on it and send the Jeep back out the door. A stabilizer is just a shock absorber for your steering. Replacing it only masks the symptom. The actual cause is almost always worn ball joints, a loose track bar bolt, worn tie rod ends, or some combination of all three. The track bar frame mount bolt requires 125 foot-pounds of torque, and when it loosens, the hole in the frame can wallow out and create permanent play that no replacement bolt fixes. Real death wobble repair means inspecting every steering and suspension component, replacing what's worn, and torquing everything to factory spec. A full front-end overhaul runs $800 to $1,500. A stabilizer Band-Aid at $170 just hides the problem until it comes back worse, possibly at highway speed with your family in the passenger seats. And this next mistake is one every off-road owner needs to hear, especially after a fun weekend on the trail. Now we're on number 3, driving through water and mud without cleaning up after. Wranglers are built to go through water and mud. They're not built to live in it. After a serious trail run, the undercarriage is packed with sand, mud, and moisture that traps against bare metal and accelerates corrosion at 5 times the normal rate. The real damage isn't the surface dirt. It's the muddy water that sits inside frame rails, behind skid plates, and inside brake components for days or weeks at a time. Brake rotors develop pitting, frame welds rust from the inside out. Electrical connectors corrode silently under crusted dirt. Here's the hidden detail almost no one knows. The JL frame has factory drain plugs specifically designed to let trapped water out, and most owners have never even located them. A full frame repair on a Wrangler runs $5,000 to $8,000, and at that point, most owners just write a check on a new vehicle. The fix takes 20 minutes. Pressure wash the entire underside. Pull the drain plugs in your frame rails. Pop the skid plates and blast behind them. Clean every brake caliper slide pin and electrical connector you can reach. 20 minutes prevents damage that totals Wranglers in 5 years. But this next mistake costs almost nothing to fix, yet causes the most frustrating problems anyone can chase. Now let's break down number 2, ignoring your battery and electrical grounds. Modern JL Wranglers run more than 70 electronic modules, and every single one depends on clean, stable voltage. A weak battery or a corroded ground strap causes misfires, erratic transmission shifts, random warning lights, and ghost codes that send mechanics chasing problems for weeks. A 2021 Rubicon 4xe came in with random ABS faults, traction control warnings, and a transmission stuck in second gear. Another shop had already replaced the wheel speed sensors, the ABS module, and the transmission valve body. Total spent before getting to the real problem, $3,800. A simple battery test showed 11.8 volts at rest. The engine block to chassis ground strap behind the alternator was solid green with corrosion. Once that ground got cleaned, torqued down, and a fresh battery went in, every fault cleared and never came back. The ground strap cost about $12. The battery, $180. Test your battery at every oil change. A fully charged Wrangler battery should read 12.6 volts at rest. Alternator output at idle should sit between 13.8 and 14.5 volts. Clean your terminals twice a year, hit them with dielectric grease, and replace the battery every 4 years before it triggers electrical chaos that costs thousands to chase. But this last mistake is the one that destroys the most expensive component in the entire Wrangler in literally 3 seconds of impatience. And finally, we've reached number 1, shifting into four-wheel drive at the wrong speed. The part-time four-wheel drive system in your Wrangler is not the same as full-time all-wheel drive on a soccer mom SUV. When you engage 4 high on the fly, the JL owner's manual is specific. The preferred shifting speed is 0 to 45 miles per hour, in a straight line with steady throttle, and you ease off the accelerator the moment you pull the lever. Engaging 4 high at 60 on the highway or mid-turn slams shock loads through the transfer case, the front differential, and the front axle shafts they were never engineered to absorb. Engaging 4 low requires the vehicle to be either completely stopped or rolling at 2 to 3 miles per hour with the transmission in neutral. A 2022 Willys got slammed from 2-wheel drive into 4 low while rolling at about 15 miles per hour because the owner was running late for a trail meetup. The grinding sound made every guy in the lot wince. Transfer case shift fork bent. The synchronizer ring cracked. The front drive shaft U-joint failed from the shock load. Total damage? $3,400 for 3 seconds of impatience. Read your owner's manual. Full stop or under 3 miles per hour for 4 low. Under 45 for 4 high. And never run 4WD on dry pavement, because the binding forces between the front and rear axles will eat your transfer case alive in just a few hundred miles. The Wranglers that hit 200,000 and 300,000 miles aren't lucky. They're owned by people who understand that this vehicle was built to abuse the world, but the world abuses it back the moment you stop paying attention. 12 mistakes, every one preventable, costing thousands when ignored. Alright guys, that's it for today. Let me know down in the comments which of these mistakes surprised you the most, or which one you've actually seen happen on a Wrangler. And if you enjoyed the video or learned something new, make sure to subscribe because we've got a lot more Jeep content coming your way. And if you want to keep watching, click the video on your screen right now. See you there!